Do you remember the last time you paid your bills and didn't start to cry? Me neither. Well, the good news is that you've shed your last tear, because in this video I'm going to share with you 10 bill hacks that I've used to save thousands of dollars that I know will save you tons of money too. Number 1. Track and stack. If you want to win the war against your bills, then the first thing you need is a budget. Now, I know what you're thinking. Adam, this is such generic advice, but trust me, without a budget, the rest of the bill hacks I'm going to share with you will be rendered useless. As such, let me share with you a simple budget you can set up in 5 minutes or less, and how to track your expenses effortlessly. When it comes to your budget, I suggest that you use what I call the split budget. This involves splitting your budget into 2 categories: spending and saving. First, determine how much of your after-tax income you want to save. Then, allocate the rest towards spending. Let me share an example of how this would work. Let's say that right now you make $4,000 a month after tax. If you decide you want to save 20% of your income, then $800 of your total after-tax income would go towards saving, with the rest being used to cover your monthly bills. Now, why is this important? Because if you want to save $800, but the remainder of your expenses exceed your after-tax income, then this is where you will begin to look for cost savings using the bill hacks I'm about to share. However, even if you do employ the bill hacks that I've used to save thousands of dollars, if you aren't diligent in tracking your spending, then all of your efforts will be for nothing. So this is where the tracking part of my world-famous saying, "If you ain't tracking, you ain't stacking," comes into play. Nowadays, we are incredibly fortunate to have multiple ways to track our spending. We can manage our expenses with apps, spreadsheets, or go old school and jot everything down on a pad of paper. I personally write all of my expenses in the notes on my iPhone. But as long as you have a system that captures all outflows of cash, including auto debits and cash purchases, then you're good to go. Number 2. Negotiate your credit card interest. Do you know what you and over 150 million people likely have in common? No, it's not that you hold your breath when going through security at the airport, or that you thought the final season of Game of Thrones sucked. What you may have in common is credit card debt. As of June this year, over 50% of Americans had over $1,000 in credit card debt, with 6% of the population having a balance of $10,000 or more. If right now you have a bit of credit card debt, you may be thinking that it's no big deal. But that's where you'd be wrong. Because when left unattended, this form of debt can get out of hand quickly. For instance, if you're like 30% of Americans and have roughly $5,000 of credit card debt at a rate of 20% and only make the minimum payments of $100, it would take you 61 months, or just over 5 years, to pay off. And you'd end up handing over $3,000 in interest. Therefore, having lingering credit card debt is no joke. And while it's best to avoid altogether, if you do have some hanging around, here are the exact steps you can take to cut down that interest expense fast. First, turn your credit card around and call up the company. When you do this, you're going to take one of 2 approaches depending on your financial situation. If you literally cannot make your payments, simply state that you can't pay your balance at your current interest rate, but that you could if the rate was lowered. Most credit card companies would rather receive some payment than none, so this is worth a shot. However, if you're not in dire financial straits and are just looking to pay less on interest, here's what you should do. Once you get on the phone with the service agent, tell them that you have been offered a significantly lower interest rate by another company, and that you would like to switch companies if your current company can't match or beat their rate. Often your company will ask for evidence, so make sure you've obtained a few quotes before making this call. If they can't change your rate permanently, ask for a temporary reprieve of at least 3 months. This will allow more of your repayments to go right onto the principal, which is the key to paying down your debt. If your current company doesn't want to help you out, then just move along and let another company offer you an introductory rate, which is almost always better than the rate you're presently paying. Now, I know you're curious how much money this can save you, so let's go over that now. If you have a balance of $5,000 at 21% and can get it reduced to 15%, that 6% saves you $300, assuming you pay off the balance in 1 year. I don't know about you, but I'd make a 15-minute phone call if I could save a few $100. Number 3. Set discount reminders. Look, as an adult, you live and die by the reminders you set in your phone. I know for myself personally, I can't even remember to take out the garbage without a notification being pre-programmed, and since you're likely the same, this next hack will do you wonders for your savings efforts. What you want to do to continuously save more money is set up discount reminders on your phone every time you take on a new service. For instance, if you sign up for a new cell phone plan, set a reminder in 3 months' time to call the company and ask if there are any discounts you can get. Then, no matter how that discussion goes, set another reminder in 3 months and do this into perpetuity. Now, is this trick going to save you a ton of money instantly? No. However, I'm sure you can imagine amidst all the bills we regularly pay that saving $10 a month here and $25 a month there can add up over time. You may be curious what types of expenses this trick works best with, so let's get into that now. I have found, through using this technique myself, that this works best with cell phone plans, cable and internet subscriptions, auto insurance and the like. Again, this hack won't make you rich, but if you save $10 a month for a year, that's $120, and that's a win if you ask me. Number 4. Have fun on the cheap. You know how they say that the best things in life are free? Wait, who are they anyways? Well, if you told this to my girlfriend, she'd definitely disagree. That an engagement ring sure isn't free. However, there are many free things that are enjoyable, and that can save you a ton of money as well. You see, over the last couple years, I went through quite the financial transition. I went from living at home, saving most of my income, to owning my own home and having more expenses than I'd like. As you can imagine, when you own a home as a single person, finances can be tight as a lid on a jar of pickles. And all of a sudden, those invitations to the bar on a Friday night or a concert aren't as financially appealing as they used to be. Fortunately, just because you want to save money doesn't mean you can't have fun. It just means that fun will look a little different. For instance, I seldom go out to the club anymore, and this alone saves me a few $100s a month. Instead, I have my friends come over for a couple pops or go out on a walk to catch up. I'm not going to lie, not starting every weekend with a hangover has been well worth this lifestyle adjustment, but the savings have been nice too. Another great way to have fun on the cheap is to cook a meal with a friend or significant other rather than going out. I don't know about you, but I can't go out to dinner for less than $150, especially if my girlfriend orders wine. But if you make a similar meal at home, then that cost instantly gets slashed in half. Plus, when you stay in, you don't have to worry about parking, getting a rude waiter or having to calculate the tip. In short, as I've gotten older, I've come to realize that it's not the cost of an activity that makes it fun, but the company you're with. Or at least that's what I tell my girlfriend anyways. Number 5. Leverage credit card rewards. Unless you're willing to go back to living in your parents' basement, which I'd assume you're not, then no matter how many hacks you use, your bills will never be totally eliminated. That being said, how you pay your bills can impact how much you save, and if you get the right credit card, then this can be easier than you think. Now, typically when people sign up for credit cards, they opt for one of two options: cashback or points. While I don't have anything against either one per se, I think that the former option is hands down better when striving to save money, and here's why. When you get cashback, it's literally saving you money as long as you don't spend more to imply collecting more returns. However, when you get points like travel points, you put yourself in a position to spend those points, which often prompts more spending. Think about it. If you receive 2 free tickets to the best place on earth, Italy, you would still need to pay for accommodations, food excursions and the like in order to make your trip complete. However, with cashback, you get a credit on your account, lowering your bill and ultimately saving more money. So how much can you save leveraging the power of credit card rewards? Good question. Recent reports show that the average person spends just over $60,000 a year on living expenses. Let's assume that 50% of those expenses can be charged to your credit card and your cashback percentage is 2%. This means that you could be getting $600 back a year just by charging your expenses to your cashback card. Now, if you have known to not be the most responsible credit card user, then this savings technique probably isn't for you. However, for anyone who can manage their plastic without an issue, using cashback cards is a great way to save a bit of money. Number 6. Understand your wants versus needs. Hands down, the easiest way to cut down your bills is to not spend in the first place. Now, as I just mentioned, we will always have bills, but the extent of those bills is somewhat in our control. You see, on a fundamental level, a lot of our money issues are outside of our control. We can't control things like government policy, the state of the economy, or even if our bosses are going to give us a raise this year, which they should. What we can control is our own spending habits. And sadly for many people, their decisions only compound the money problem brought on by external factors. There's no better example of this than the recent report that states that 30% of people making $250,000 a year or more are likely living paycheck to paycheck. As someone who's been making six figures for a while, I can tell you that unless you live in New York City or San Francisco, you should be able to avoid becoming a member of this statistic if you simply employ some spending control. So why are so many people finding themselves in this situation in the first place? If you ask me, it's not understanding the difference between a want and a need. For instance, I classify a need as anything you can't live without. Things I classify as needs include housing, food, transportation, and clothing. On the flip side, wants for me include things like entertainment, convenience, vacations, and the like. Now, just to be clear, I'm not saying that you need to avoid all non-essential spending. Far from it. I routinely spend hundreds a month on entertainment and like to go on vacation a couple times a year, but I always make sure I attend my financial needs first. So this is all to say that the quickest way to cut down your bills is to delineate your mandatory expenses and those you can live without. To do this, I recommend having money dates every single month where you review all of the costs you've incurred. So glad this isn't the only kind of date I'm having these days. When doing this, highlight ones that you could do without, and next month, don't spend money on this item. In a month's time, you will see just how essential that expense is, and I can almost guarantee that if it doesn't relate to keeping a roof over your head or putting food in your stomach, then it's not as much of a need as you may have thought. Number 7. Assess your housing needs. Hopefully this isn't news to you, but for the majority of people, their housing expenses are by far their most costly expense, and this makes sense. Shelter is one of our core human needs, and as such, it's not uncommon for this expense to make up at least 30% of our monthly expenses. Now, while this is a major money sink, it also offers an incredible opportunity to save money. That is, if you're willing to get tactical in your savings efforts. First off, let me help out my friends who own a home like I do. When it comes to easing the cost of owning a home, you can attack this issue from two sides. The first is to go on the offensive and try to use your home to make some money. As you would guess, this would involve renting out a room, a basement, a parking spot, or any other space someone would be willing to pay for. I've been doing this for a few years, and let me tell you that generating some extra cash to offset the cost of home ownership makes owning a place significantly more affordable. However, not everyone is willing to have a stranger live in their home, and that's okay. As such, you can always look to save money instead, and there are a few good ways to go about this. Probably the easiest way to do this is to refinance your mortgage. When you refinance, you are essentially paying a small fee to exit your mortgage and renew at a lower rate. Here's an example of how this would work. Let's say you have a mortgage of $430,000, which is the average US mortgage size, as of the start of 2022. If you initially sign a 30-year fixed-rate mortgage at 5%, your monthly payments would be $2,300. However, if you refinanced at 3%, which would likely incur a cost of a few $100s, your payment would then reduce to $1,800, saving you $500 a month. Of course, this really isn't an option if interest rates are now higher than what you signed your mortgage and may also not be available to you until you have a certain amount of equity in your home. But in the right situation, refinancing can make a ton of sense. Another saving trick for homeowners is downsizing. No, not that much, but hear me out. In the last 60 years in Canada and the United States, the size of new single-family homes have doubled in size, while family sizes have slowly declined. What does that mean? That you may be swimming in a ton of wasted square footage which is draining your bank account month after month. Now, I know that moving is not an appealing thought for homeowners, But if you are serious about saving money and are about to move to a new home, I urge you to really think about how much room you really need, as the cost for more can be substantial. For my renters out there, don't think I forgot about you. If you are thinking about renting a new place, the best piece of advice I can give you to save some money is to negotiate with your landlord a preferential rate. I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse. Usually landlords will give you a bit of a discount if you are willing to sign a longer lease or meet each other and every one of their renting stipulations. If you are already renting, there are plenty of options for you as well. First, I would look to barter for a lower rent by offering to maintain the property with respect to mowing the lawn, shoveling snow or doing repairs around the unit. Alternatively, you can take the approach I just mentioned and offer to sign a longer lease. No, not that kind of longer lease. Never underestimate the value of a good tenant and keep this in mind when negotiating a lower... Number 8. Review your cell phone usage. The next hack is one that you're going to want to thank my mum for, because recently she came to me asking if there was a way she could lower her cell phone bill, and given that she brought me into this world, the least I could do was try and save her some money. You see, if I had to guess, I would say that you probably don't use all the features that your current phone plan offers. As I know for myself personally, this is the case. For instance, I have 20 gigabytes of monthly data, and ever since I started working from home, I've barely gone over 2 gigabytes a month. So this begs the question, why are we overpaying for nothing? If you want to cut down your cell phone bill, no, not like that. Here's what I want you to do. After you watch this video, and hopefully a few more while you're at it, open up your data usage history for the last couple of months, average out your usage, and determine how much you're actually using. If it's well below what you're paying for, then you have a starting point for your negotiations. Next, research all phone plans at your current level of usage. This can include both promotional or ongoing offers. Highlight the ones that are presently cheaper than what you want to pay and have them handy for when you call your current provider. When you get on the phone with your current cell phone company, ask the service agent if they can match their competitors' rates. If they turn you down, ask to speak to the retention department. Then give them the same spiel. I've used this tactic a few times and it almost never fails, and here's why. A phone company would rather get 75% of your current payment than 0% if you were to switch providers. So, unless you live in the middle of nowhere where there is only one provider available, then this tactic should pan out. Now, how much will this hack save you? It depends. It depends what kind of promotional offers are available at the time you perform this exercise, and it depends on how much you are willing to bend on your phone features. I've been able to reduce my bill by around $20 a month every time I call, so this is another couple of $100 a year in your pocket if you can pull it off. Number 9. Work remotely. If you've been living off the work from home dream for the last 2 years like I have, then you'll know firsthand just how much money you'll save by not going into the office. However, even if you've been working from home for some time, you may be overlooking just how financially beneficial this setup truly is. For instance, reports have shown that working from home versus going into the office full-time is saving many people upwards of $1,800 a month. This may sound like a lot, but when you add up the avoided costs, it makes sense. When you're at home, you avoid costs like grabbing lunch, commuting, buying professional clothing, and even some childcare costs if you have kids. Plus, let's not overlook the fact that avoiding commute times offers the ability to turn that time into an opportunity to earn some extra income, will also only further help you get ahead of your bills. I know for myself personally, not having to commute gives me 10 hours a week, which I've replaced with freelance work that brings in an extra couple $1,000s a month. Now, I know that working from home is not an option for everyone, and I respect that. However, if there is even a remote chance, yes, pun intended, that you could do part of your job from the convenience of your own home, then I would recommend asking your boss for this accommodation, or even changing jobs given how lucrative this setup can be. Number 10. Renegotiate your insurance. If I were to rank the 3 most annoying expenses to pay, the first would be tax, the second would be interest charges, and the third would be insurance. However, as annoying as paying for insurance can be, we all know that if we truly need it, then we will be damn glad we had been paying for it. The question is, can we get the benefit of paying for insurance and limit the cost of this expense at the same time? I know that you can because I've been able to reduce my own insurance bills before, so let's get into how I was able to do that right now. Whether you are negotiating for home insurance, auto insurance, life insurance or the like, the game is all the same. In this space there are hundreds of providers who all want to be the one to be your saviour in your time of need, in exchange for paying a monthly premium until that unfortunate day. The good news for you is that given the plethora of providers, you have the power when it comes to negotiating a preferential rate. Now, assuming you don't have 10 accidents on your record when applying for auto insurance or are on life support when looking into life insurance, then here's how you want to proceed. First, get some quotes for insurance relating to the type of insurance you need with the same level of coverage that you currently have. Next, call up your provider and ask if there is anything they can do for you in order to lower your premiums. Chances are, with a good reason, they will turn down your request, which is when you want to bring in the big guns. Begin to explain to them that you have been solicited by other insurance providers with their preferential rates and threaten to leave your current provider. I know this sounds harsh, but trust me. Insurance companies have been known to dispute claims to get their way, and the bit of money you'll save won't have the company going bankrupt anytime soon. If you implement these 10 bill hacks, I guarantee you'll start saving money. And if you want to learn 5 other money-saving tips I use daily, click on this next video and let's get started.